8 days old and still living with my parents.
How sad is that? Clearly, it was time to move on.
Here is your minion. He will take care of you.
And here is your pinky. You are destined for
I didn't quite hear that last part, but it sounded important. Destined for what?
Hello, please come in. There's some fresh cookies in the cookie jar. There's a pitcher of Kool-Aid on the counter. Have a seat. We'll put a movie on for you. This is Movies at Grandma's House, where we look at the movies from the past, see if they're still good today. And I'm your host, Isaac. I was 8 days old and still living with my parents. How sad is that? Clearly it was time to move on. Who's joining me to consider a movie about a character called Megamind?
This is Seth. All men must choose between two paths. Good is the path of honor, heroism, and nobility. Evil? Well, it's just cooler.
It is great to see you. How are you doing?
I am really good today. I'm so excited for this. I've been waiting for it. This is one that I've been like checking off on the calendar kind of thing.
I bet. I've been anxious to consider this movie too. If you follow this podcast, Seth's kind of made mention of this would be nice to consider this movie. So I'm interested to hear your full thoughts as we go through this one. So before we get into it though, do you love family movies? Want to watch as many reviews as you can find? Then hit that like, hit that subscribe, and notify bell if you'd be so kind. And this is your spoiler warning. So heads up, if you don't want anything spoiled, and you have not seen this movie, please stop what you're doing. Go watch it. It's on streaming right now. I think last I checked, it was on Max, but you know how streaming services are. It might change, but go watch it. Come on back. We are going to have a fun time with a little movie called Megamind. So this was released back in the United States, November 5th, 2010. I mentioned United States because it's released in Russia first. It was in October 28th. 2010, but November 5th is what we would be familiar with. The budget for this movie was $130 million. So pretty big chunk of change, but the box office, it was a pretty big hit. It was $321.9 million. And like I mentioned, you can see this on Max. I want to say Cinemax, but Max subscription. It's free. Reviews, just real quick. I like to kind of peek, but we'll get to our reviews obviously towards the end. I'm seeing pretty much a positive 7.3 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes is 73%, and Metacritic is about 63%. So I'm really, again, curious to hear your take of this movie. So going back to 2010, what are some first memories you have with this film?
Well, I didn't see this when it was new, but someone introduced it to me. And once I saw it, I couldn't put it down.
That's awesome. I remember when it came out. I can't tell you what the reasoning was of not seeing it. It was probably on here and there. I just have memories of being at friends' house and it would be on. And I thought it was funny. I remember laughing and little bits and pieces, but I never watched it all the way through. I can't give you a reason why. It's just one of those movies that somehow fell through the cracks or just got missed. I didn't think, I'll go back and watch it. So that's kind of my first memories. It's voiced by Will Ferrell. I really like a lot of things he's in. So I'm still wondering to this day why I did not see this sooner, but here we are. I'm happy to finally consider it. So with that in mind, kind of give you a little bit of mine, but I'm interested to hear, what were your expectations on going back on the rewatch?
So with this cast, I had very high expectations.
Mm-hmm. This is a pretty awesome cast. Yes. When you actually look at, it's this person, I agree with that. And for me, my kids love superheroes. They're into all the, Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, all that. So I was really thinking, I want to keep this even. I've heard so much about this movie. So I'm going to try and keep it level, but I was definitely excited. I was like, this should be a home run. It should hit on everything, but I'm going to wait to see what happens when I actually sit down and experience it like I always do with my kids and see what everybody thinks. So let's jump into it. Let's take it, in this case, out of the DVD case. Let's put it into the DVD player and press play.
This film centers around evil Megamind, voiced by Will Ferrell. When he finds himself without a challenger, a void starts to eat at him, so he hatches a plan for a new contender. In this movie, we see how people change, even mature. With great voiceover work, these characters shine bright in this hilarious superhero movie. Look for a comfy seat, enjoy a snack, and prepare to laugh.
All right. Very nice summary there, as always. So yeah, when you're watching this movie, we talked about it's a superhero movie, kind of riding that wave of when superhero movies were really starting to get big. I think they kind of capitalized on that. And that kind of goes back to maybe why I missed this movie. There was just so many other superhero movies. There wasn't that superhero fatigue as much, I think, because I've heard that comment kind of thrown around. But I'm interested. When you're watching this movie, what are some first impressions that you have?
Well, I wasn't. This wasn't planned, but in my research, I found out that when they pitched the movie, and a fun fact ahead of time, it was actually they were going to do a live action.
Really?
So they chose animated. They probably wanted to get the kids to watch, the family to watch, and I think it paid off well, if you ask me. But first impressions, I would say this is really a roller coaster of a film. Is it ever a roller coaster? There's so many ups and downs and twists and turns.
This is no different. We've considered some movies that are, they kind of stay even keeled, but that's what kind of sticks out to me. When you're watching this movie, it's got that quip and comedy that you would expect. I mentioned Will Ferrell is the voice of Megamind, so if you know his comedy, it's got that kind of humor throughout. This is DreamWorks. They've done movies similar where those like funny pop culture references or inside jokes here and there. And it just takes off. I mean, it's very much, here's what's going on. But I was really surprised. If I was going to think of what made an impression on me, is this wasn't your standard just superhero movie. This had an actual layer to it because, like you said, it's like a roller coaster. You think it's going one way and it actually takes you another way. And then you go, okay. And it's like you're starting to get used to it, and then it takes you another direction, just like in the twists and turns of a roller coaster. So I think that's very fitting. That's exactly how I was feeling as I was watching this movie. I think if you're going to say what sticks out, you mentioned it, the cast, the characters in this movie. So where do you want to begin when it comes to bringing out that part of the film?
So, I mean, we could talk about this for a little while, but just to read off some names: Tina Fey, Brad Pitt, David Cross, Jonah Hill, Ben Stiller, Justin Theroux, J.K. Simmons, and Will Ferrell. I mean, seriously, where can you go wrong?
And I have to say something, like, if we'll probably talk about it more, but all those names, like, you can make a movie on its own with any one of those people.
Yeah.
Will Ferrell's the main character, and I just want to say right now, like, he just knocks it out of the park. I think Will Ferrell is one of those, he's your type of comedy or he's not. Maybe you're in the middle. I think it's more often than not one extreme or the other. But no matter how you feel about the guy, if you listen just for the voice acting aspect, this is one of his better parts, one of his roles, I would argue. Absolutely. The technique of being a voice actor, it's not this complicated thing, but I don't know, there's just something about his work in this movie. It's just, I'm like, this is like an actual professional voice actor that is doing Megamind. Because sometimes you have these movies where they throw a big name, and it's no disrespect because they're a good actor, but maybe they're just not in the voice acting. No, I didn't feel that way at all. And I could see you nodding in agreement. I mean, where do you begin with Will Ferrell? What was your take?
So for me, it's the things that he emphasizes, the things he punches on. It's not what you would expect really for him to like emphasize, but it's the way he does it and when he does it, and it's so effective.
Yeah.
And I could talk for days about how well the voiceover work is in this movie. It's so well done. I mean, it had to have taken some time. It had to have, because it's just so precise, and the what they deliver is so good.
Yeah. I think we'll probably circle around and continually come back to it. I want to say it before I forget though, but I was in stitches laughing. I was actually almost like crying laughing when kind of touch on the plot a little bit. You know, he, like you said, he has this hero that stops him. Well, then it looks like he blows up. He's taken out. So then he gets bored because he has all this stuff and he creates this new hero. Well, in order to do that, he impersonates Marlon Brando from Superman. I was in stitches laughing because that Marlon Brando impression is just so spot on. And that's where I go back to the voice acting. It's like he just flips a switch throughout this movie because Megamind takes on different characters. And in that case, it's still Will Ferrell, you know, because they're using that voice actor for that character. But he just flips the switch, and it's just so well. That's what got me, is he's flipping at times. That scene at first when he's introduced, but then he changes at times from Megamind to the so-called father of this hero that he created. Love that. I just wanted to bring that out. That's like, if not my favorite, one of my favorite parts of this whole movie. I loved it, every bit of it. So, but yeah,
I agree with everything you're saying. I agree with. I want to jump back onto the plot real fast. You may have expected a simple plot, but it really has a lot of pieces to it. There's a lot of going on from here or there that make up what was kind of a complex story. And I like that. I like to think about things and be like pondering over them while the movie's going on. And that was well done. Yeah, the characters were just amazing. Did you know that the guy that played like the nerdy guy, that was Ben Stiller?
I didn't know at first until the credits.
His voice. Yeah, he changed his voice for it.
Yeah. I didn't know that at the time, like as the movie. I thought it was a great voice and everything. It fit the character. And again, every single character fits, but it wasn't until the credits because I saw executive producer. He was a producer. And I'm like, Ben Stiller? Yeah. Okay. And then credits, sure enough, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's so funny though.
And I don't think this is in my notes either, but Justin Theroux actually co-wrote some of it. And he was a producer on it as well. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. I may have talked about him on another podcast. I can't recall, but he does a lot of movies where he like kind of co-writes it and kind of supervises what's going on.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and he's a really clever guy. So that was pretty cool.
And he was Megamind's father, right? That was the voice he did.
Who I'm thinking of?
Justin or who was the character?
Remember, I think he played a different character, but I could pull it up real quick if you want me to.
Okay, I was trying to pick. That's the thing, as I'll just give credit to this cast. Yes, these are big names, but outside of Will Ferrell, I think he's got a recognizable voice. I almost didn't know it was Tina Fey. Like I heard that Tina Fey was that. I'm like, is that really her? It's like they changed their voices to fit the character mold, and that's where I really got into it because it's like, you're not just getting so-and-so actor. Now, Brad Pitt, I think he did kind of play himself, but he played the perfect character. I mean, come on. How do you not see Brad Pitt as like a superhero? Like if you did live action, he would totally be that. So I didn't mind that as much. Like, no, I actually like hearing a little bit of Brad Pitt's voice in there. But that's what I was blown away about. I can't say enough about the voice acting. It's just not person phoning it in, saying, okay, let me read my script. Yeah. They really put in emotion. They put in a character. And that's where I show a lot of respect to people that can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thoreau was his father. I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. My mind's in a different spot, and I'm.
I couldn't remember. I thought he was he was in there, but he's kind of the minor. He still did a great job,
Yeah,
but it was more on the minor.
like 2 scenes or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me, I know it's kind of jumping all over the place, but I love the quotes in this movie too, if we want to touch on. And
Yes.
one of it's like, take your pick. I mean, it's just constant boom, boom, boom. But for some reason, one quote that stuck out to me, it was the parents for Brad Pitt. I'm blanking on the superhero's name, Metro Man.
Yeah.
When he first lands into the living room, the mom's like, "Oh, look, a baby." And the father's like, "Yes, I saw it and thought of you." And he's just reading a paper, like distracted.
Ah.
I don't know why that was so funny to me. I'm just cracking up because it's that obvious, like, father that doesn't care. And he's just like, "Yes, dear," reading a paper. And it was just, I thought it was great.
To me, it's those little lines that catch you by surprise that make this movie.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. I'm like you said, you can pick and choose your favorite quotes, but it's usually the little ones like cut between the other lines. You know what I mean? It's not like I was just blown away. The script is amazing.
It is. That's if you go with that thought, I think that's where you really appreciate a movie more because you might have a great movie that has a lot of quotes, but sometimes the movie trailer will show you everything. So when you watch it, it's still kind of funny maybe, but you're like, "Oh, I've already seen it." With this movie, I think if you watch the trailer, you'd still have a blast with it because there's, like you said, so many funny little lines that wouldn't be in a trailer or really highlighted. It's kind of the minor, but it just contributes so much to this movie. I can't say enough about it. It's masterfully done, in my opinion. Yeah.
To go back to the quotes, I was thinking along the lines of some of the more profound quotes that have a lot of meaning to behind them. And I loved it when he goes, "There's a benefit to losing. You get to learn from your mistakes." And like, if you think about that, like for a superhero movie, they don't ever talk about stuff like that. And it's really cool to like just hear these like profound words spoken from these, animated characters.
Yeah. I mean, there's funny quotes, and then there's very like that's almost like a life quote in a way, kind of just very clever. I love it in different ways. It's not just a one size fits all quotes. It's all over, and I love it. Those are movies you got to just tip your hat to the writers, to the screenwriters, anyone that contributes to those lines, the dialogue. I mean, that takes skill to make it so consistent. That's what I would say about this film too, is it's very consistent in just the quality. I mean, you could take any scene and it's like, you should get at least a chuckle or something out of it. Yeah, I can't go on enough about it. Anything else? I know we're missing on so much stuff. We were kind of all over the place, but anything else that we want to focus on or bring out?
Well, something I didn't really write down, but I think we both agree is that the music was kind of shocking to how good it was. I don't know what they paid for all those songs, but I imagine they paid a pretty penny.
Had to.
It was really, really well done. Nice selection. It's not like one genre. It was all over the place. For each like moment, there was different kinds of music and some classics and some, great like score music. Like the actual emotional scenes were really well done. I was blown. What did you think?
I think that was exactly what you're saying. I'm thinking about a funny scene though too. Like the music is fantastic, but they even make it funny. Like going back to there's serious times and it can be emotional of fitting the scene, but then there's also funny. So like I'm thinking of Megamind takes over and he's going into the mayor's house and he's playing AC/DC on the boombox and he's wanting him to stop and it flips over to what is that song? It's the high pitched like loving you, and he's like trying to turn it off, and it
Minnie
keeps going.
Riperton. I think it's called. I think it's "Loving You." I think is the name of the song.
Yeah, I'm just blanking on it, but the way that is delivered, the delivery of it,
yes.
it's just great. Yeah, I can't agree with you more. It's just very fitting to the tone they're going for, and sometimes when I hear songs like that, I'm like, they're kind of overdoing it. They're pushing the song in your face, but I never felt that way. That was me. I felt like, yes, this is a fitting song, if it was licensed, and then the score, like you said, the actual score that's for the movie was well done. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
everything's very fitting. It just fits in like a puzzle piece. It's like that perfect piece you're trying to make fit. There's just effortless flow going on throughout. I just can't say enough. I mean, going back to it feels like we're just jumping all over the place. I mean, I don't know what to touch on, but the other thing that popped in my head is I feel like David Cross doesn't give enough credit. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
is such a funny guy. I love practically everything that I've seen him in. He's not that like Will Ferrell guy that's the main focus. He's always a good secondary, and I respect that guy because he could probably make me laugh being any character, but his like little minion, fantastic. Love all of his lines. I mean, I can't go on enough. Is there any other characters other than Megamind or others that kind of stick out to you if it is him too?
Well, if I could harp on that, actually, you got to think this is one of David Cross's biggest roles he's ever had.
Right.
He's literally playing secondary. He's got a lot of lines in this, a lot of dialogue in this movie, and I thought everything was delivered perfectly. Very, 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 very funny. The timing of everything was perfect. I love Brad Pitt. His voice just resonates with you. It stays with you. And Tina Fey was amazing. Jonah Hill, very funny. I thought his character actually could have been used more in the movie, if you ask me. Who else was in there? Yeah, J.K. Simmons, just amazing.
Yeah.
When I found out that was Ben Stiller, I was really like, "Wow, he did a small role in this movie." So that was kind of cool, actually, that they got him for that. But yeah, it's just the characters and the voiceover work are just amazing. I mean, I don't know where I don't know where to start talking about it because I'm so excited.
I just think it's like if you're gonna try and outdo this cast, it's gonna be difficult. I think it's gonna be hard if you're trying to say, I think there's a better movie. This is pretty much top of the top, if you ask me. If you're gonna say off the top of my head, I can't think of another movie with that many stars, but they are also living up to that name in my, like, not just, again, like I mentioned, they threw in this actor because they were going to sell tickets. I just can't commend them enough. Like, they did such a great job on the casting and the effort that's put into it. It just feels like it's a passion project for everybody involved. The animation is great too. We didn't really touch on that as much, but I felt like the animation's really good. DreamWorks has their own style. I think it fits right in there, but it can be very unique, and this is no different. It's got its own unique touch to it, but it definitely is. This is one of the DreamWorks catalog. It's one of the. Unfortunately, like I said, I kind of overlooked this one. I think it's unfortunate that happens. I feel like it's kind of underrated. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, apparently a lot of people did see it, but both of us weren't one of them in the box office. So that it's amazing to me, like we didn't go see it in theaters because it's just where can they go wrong? It's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how anybody would be like, oh, I don't want to see that. You know what I mean?
Right. It checks all the boxes. Yeah.
It does.
I mean, even at that time, I can look back like this should have really blew it out of the park, but I just don't hear much mention of it, at least from the public's view or whatever. You don't really hear about it. That's what's kind of surprising. You would think this type of movie, even if it didn't do good at the box office, it kind of has a resurgent, especially with streaming nowadays. Those types of movies sometimes will come back. So yeah. I'm interested to hear what else do you have that you want to make sure you touch on, and any fun facts or that sort of thing.
If I'm forgetting anything, please, try to bring it out because there's so much I could talk about with this one. The fun facts, I've got 5 I'll rattle off for you. The film's plot was based on the premise, what if Lex Luthor defeated Superman?
That's pretty apparent. That makes sense though. That's the angle. I just thought they were spoofing Superman because Metro Man is clearly Superman. They both come from another planet, So there's those little like making fun of
Yeah.
Superman details,
Yeah.
but that's still
I
cool.
I liked that humor too. That was really funny that when they were spoofing Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To promote the movie, Will Ferrell assembled 1,580 of his friends and their acquaintances for a superhero costume function. It set a Guinness World Record for the largest gathering of superheroes.
Wow. I didn't 1,080 you said?
1,580.
Oh, 580. Okay. Wow. And they're all in costume. That was
All in
probably
costume.
that's great. I could totally see Will Ferrell doing that. That
Yeah,
fits
yeah,
the
yeah.
mold.
The next one, the observatory explosion took 7 artists nearly 4 months to create.
That was a pretty awesome explosion.
It was.
I was saying. I could
Yeah.
see that. Yeah.
Megamind mispronounces words up to 20 times. This can be heard when he calls Metro City Metrocity.
Yes. And that's something, I mean, again, we could talk about so much. There's so much to this movie. I don't think we could touch on everything, but that's a little fun. I kind of went, that's cool. Because at the end, Mega Man impersonates Metro Man and he scares off Titan.
Yeah.
And he comes back. But I forget her name. Is it Roxanne or Roxette?
Yeah, Roxanne,
She turns it off to turn him back to Megamind. So at first you think he came back because he noticed he got turned back, but he just said, you think you could have fooled me until you said my monstrosity or whatever. Yeah. I thought that was a great little detail. It's just kind of like, that's you underestimated him a little bit. Little stuff like that. It just added to it.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my sister loves saying "shul."
I love that too because I'm like, why is he saying shul? And then it should have just got a shot at the school and it says shul, and I just died laughing. I was like, that's great. Yes, love that line.
The last one I got is Metro Man's persona was based on Elvis.
Yeah,
and if you think about it, it makes sense.
It does. Doesn't he do that at when it's Metro Man Day? He does like a little dance at the beginning.
I think he does. Yeah,
I thought that too. I was like, I think they're trying to. Obviously, it's Superman, but they incorporate a little bit of Elvis. So I kind of caught that a little bit. Yeah, that's really cool though.
Yeah, and I like that. That was cool. That was really cool.
Yeah, and the hair. I think it had. I mean, Superman has the curl, but I think if you look at it, it's more like an Elvis hair going on.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Just little details like that. That's what's so great about it. I can't say enough. I mean, I think we're in agreement. It's just go check this movie out. It's got a very clever plot. We kind of touched on it, but I think if you're going to just dedicate a whole episode to a plot, you could talk for an hour or so just talking about the plot because it's so clever. It's like you said, it's not your typical superhero story. It's got multi-layers to it of this villain that actually wants to be good, but there's all this traversing and things he's going through.
That reminds me of when the minion was getting upset that he was trying to, he was having thoughts of being good. And he's like, you can't say that. And he's like, well, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. The conflicting. Yeah. And then
it was good. It was good.
It's really good. Really good. And then he storms off. He's like, I'm going to take my thing and go. It's just like food. It's like fish food or something. He puts it in a briefcase and leaves. Again, funny lines, just little stuff. I picked up on so many of them, and I know I probably need to watch it again to pick up what I missed because I was probably laughing through some of it too.
You have to laugh through some of it. I mean, that's just so funny.
Yeah. So again, I think we could talk at length about this movie, but I'm very interested to see. Let's go ahead and take a look at the different reviews that are out there. So what kind of reviews are you seeing out there?
So Blade-21 says, a well-developed movie for adults and kids, 9 out of 10.
All right. Very nice summary there. I do agree. It's, I think the whole part of Metro Man when he blows up and there's skeleton. We didn't really touch on that.
Yeah.
That might be a little scary. I didn't
Yeah.
really touch on my kids. I've been like going on about my thoughts, but my kids enjoyed it. They had a good time with this one. I know that sequence might be a little scary. There's little moments like that. Me personally, I think it wasn't too much though. It was just like if they would have went a little farther, that might be a little bit.
See,
But
and I think by going animated, that made it less like difficult to watch.
yes,
So I
I
think
agree.
they chose wisely when they went. It wasn't live action.
I agree with that. That's probably why they actually did that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one was smells _ cheese. Said heroes are out, villains are in. 7 out of 10.
Okay. 7's a respectable score, but I was expecting a little higher, but that's still good. That's good. Yeah.
Smells like cheese tells it like it is. He gives his review.
Yep. Yep. We remember him. He's a good one though. I respect your reviews. So good job. Keep up the good work.
This last one is more my review. Project Blue 02 says, I love Megamind. 10 out of 10.
Guess that's a little bit of a spoiler, but I mean that I can totally see that. Very simple and to the point, and I can get why they feel that way. So there you go. There's a little glimpse of what's out there, but I don't know if it'll be much of a spoiler. Let's get down to our reviews though. So like I always do, Seth, I still have to ask you, for the movie Megamind, how are you going to rate it? Are you going to take it home? Are you going to leave it at grandma's? Or are you going to hide it in the attic?
Not going to take too much time with this one. It's in my top 20 films of all time. Take this home.
No surprise there. I don't know if I can love this movie as much as you. I mean, you just got that like you said, top 20. How do you say I can love it as much as you? But I didn't really touch on my kids. They, like I said, they love superhero movies. They actually they weren't really enthusiastic about starting it. They were just kind of like,
Oh, really?
oh, yeah, didn't really. And maybe going back to, not to open a can of worms, but maybe that's a part of, why it didn't do as big as we were thinking it should have.
Yeah.
Maybe it just didn't hit on, they were thinking it was going to be a different movie. And I think my kids were acting that way. They're thinking, oh, it's going to be this kind of movie. But when you press play, within the first few minutes, you go, okay, this is actually going in a different direction. Okay. And I think if audiences could have got that feeling, I bet you this would have done a lot better. I think that was kind of a glimpse, but because my kids were like, that was actually really good when the credits rolled. And that tells me, there you go. That's a good movie. If someone's going into it like, I don't want to watch this, but then afterward they're like, that's a good movie, because it takes a lot to convince someone once they're kind of decided in that thought. So anyway, getting back to it, on my rating, I think it's pretty clear. I'm going to take this home because I feel like I need to go back and watch it again. It's a movie I was laughing throughout. We touched on the plot. I don't think we did the plot justice. I think the plot is one of the shining spots of this movie. If you just if you're like, I don't get the humor, I think you'll love the plot, because it's just so, like we said, back and forth on this conflicting, being bad, but I want to be good. And it's just a fun ride to go through and see that character arc go through, and all the clever lines, the clever little details. I love all that stuff. I'll throw a hot take out there to kind of go along with it, though, because I said I don't think I could love this movie as much as you, and that's a true statement, because you said this is in your top 20. However, I will make a hot take. Is this DreamWorks' best movie? I think so.
Oh,
now
that's something I have to revisit. Yeah,
that's my other thought is, we've talked about considering some more DreamWorks movies, but as of this recording, I am confident to say this is probably their greatest movie they've made to date. I will go with that thought right now, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but that's how strongly I feel about this movie. This is a very just complete movie. I think it's a complete movie. So if you've not seen it, I highly recommend it. High marks from me. It's a fantastic. You're going to have a good time. in some shape or form. There's something to like about this movie in all different areas.
Yeah.
So there it is. That's our coverage of Megamind. I'm so happy we got to consider this movie. It was great to hear your thoughts because we've hinted at it for so long, and here we are. We finally got to consider it. So this was an absolute blast. Love it. So before we wrap things up, though, Seth, why don't you tell the good people where they can find and connect with us?
So you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Like and subscribe. You can also email us at movies@grandmashouse@gmail.com. And we are on Patreon, so become a member and stay up to date.
There you go. Go give us a follow and send us a message. Memories you have of these movies we've considered, or even recommendations. We're always on the lookout. We have movies that we'd like to consider, but if there's any that you would like to see us review, shoot us an email like Seth mentioned there or on any of those platforms. We'll be happy to consider and take a look at the different movies out there. There's so many we can go through, but that'll do it for now at Grandma's house. But don't worry, we will be back soon. So in the meantime, remember to be kind and rewind. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, the spider's new.
Spider? Yes, the spider. Even the smallest bite from Arachnus dethicus will instantly paralyze. Ow! Get it off! Ow! It bit me!
Give it up, Megamind. Your plans never work.
Oh. Let's stop wasting time and call your boyfriend in tights, shall we?